Welcome to Office 2010 video number 8. Hey, in this video, we are still talking about Word, and we want to talk about one of the most important topics in Word today, the 3 levels of formatting. Now, before we get started, put in your jump drive, and let's do the keyboard shortcut Window E. All right, and then on the left, we're going to navigate to our Highline folder, which we created in the first couple of chapters. We're going to go to Class Notes and Word. So we're still here. We want to create a file from scratch today and talk about the 3 levels of formatting. I'm going to go ahead and open Word. I'm going to use the little shortcut down here. I'm immediately going to save as. I'm going to hit the keyboard shortcut F12. Save as. We're using Windows 7. So we see on the left all of the locations, and we need to navigate to our location, Highline. I'm going to use all the pluses, Winter 216, Class Notes. And finally, when I want a location, I click on that. I can see the file pathway up here. What do you want to call it? 3 levels of formatting, practice, or something like that. The file extension is fine. A little sick today. Excuse me. And then I'm going to click Save. I'm immediately going to Alt-Tab to go back over to Windows Explorer and look. And sure enough, I've created a new file, and I could see it inside of my Class Notes Word folder. Alt-Tab. Now, we actually talked about the 3 levels of formatting last time. Character. Luckily, there's the red squiggly. That means this word isn't in the dictionary. There's character, paragraph, and section. Section level. I'm going to enter, enter. I'm going to highlight these 3 here, and I'm going to do numbering. How about this? Numbering. 3 levels of formatting. Now, we actually talked about character and paragraph a little bit in 1 or 2 videos ago, but we're going to talk about them a little bit more. And then we're going to talk about the one that can really allow us to do some cool tricks in Word, section level formatting. Now, I want to add just some text here and then play around with character, paragraph, and then finally section level. Now, there's a cool trick in Word. If you type equal sign, RAND, open parentheses, close parentheses. That is the secret code, like a little Easter egg that says create a bunch of text for me. So when you hit Enter, it creates 3 paragraphs of text for us. Actually, I just learned this the other day, and I've never tried it. I think if you do RAND 3, it'll add 9. No, 3. Oh, maybe that's the default. Control Z. Let's try 6. I think then that'll tell it to, if you leave it out, it just slaps 3. But I think if you do 6, whoops, let's do Control Z there. I'm messing this all up. How about, I got my fingers crossed, Enter. And there's 6 paragraphs of text. Now, character we talked about last time. I could double click a word, and the dialog box that has most of the character level formatting is font. This is the font group in the home ribbon. There's some font. Now, in the video 2 ago, we looked at the keyboard shortcut for font, which is Control D. Now, the disadvantage of learning that keyboard shortcut is we use the font dialog box in Excel and PowerPoint a lot. And Control D only works in Word. So the one I suggested we use 1 or 2 videos ago was Control Shift F. And that works everywhere. Learning a keyboard shortcut that's more universal means you have to memorize fewer keyboard shortcuts. All right, so all of this stuff is character level formatting. We're not going to do too much. Maybe some bold, maybe 18, maybe a font color of that. Ooh, an underline style. What's great is you can always see a preview down here. A couple of videos ago, we talked about a use for actually, I don't think we did. I do want to show you one trick with character level formatting for superscript and subscript. But nevertheless, that's character level formatting. And when you add character level formatting, it's actually stored in each letter. Each one of these letters stores the code that says I have this color, this underline, etc. Here's one other thing about character level formatting. X squared and then space x sub 1 space x sub 2. Now, this isn't an algebra or statistics class, but commonly we in college have to take statistics and algebra. And x squared means take that x and multiply it by itself twice. But x squared, the squared part has to be superscript. So now Control-Shift-F and use super. And sure enough, that'll go up like that. Now, in statistics and algebra, sometimes you have a bunch of variables and you want x sub 1. So the 1 has to be down. So you Control-Shift-F and sub. Control-Shift-F and sub. This is actually one where I do this so often that I know that I can then go Alt-B. You know, sometimes when I'm teaching a statistics class, I have to do this 20 times in a handout. So I go Control-Shift-F, Alt-B, Enter. All right, character level formatting. Now, paragraph level formatting. Let's click right here. And just as we talked about a couple of videos ago, paragraph level formatting, there's some of it right here. I'm just going to click Center. And notice the key is this is the non-printing character that says this whole thing is a paragraph. This right here is called word wrap. As you're typing, until you hit hard enter, it automatically wraps. The fact that there's one paragraph mark for all of this text block means any paragraph level formatting will happen to the whole paragraph. So now I'm going to click here. Center. That's alignment center. Another paragraph level formatting that's quite nice is border. Sometimes you want to emphasize. So if I go outside border, it does the whole paragraph. Notice one paragraph mark, so the whole paragraph. Now, I want to talk about paragraph level formatting. Our actual next project, this is project 8, project 9, we'll actually have create a research paper. And research papers are boring and stuff until you learn all the tricks in Word. It's quite amazing what you can do. But one of the things in research paper is you always have to first line indent. Now, most people go like this. They go tab, and then and they're typing. So I'm a terrible typer. Right? And you could see there's a first line indent, and then they hit enter, and then they hit tab again, and then they type. Well, there's a paragraph level formatting that'll do that automatically for you. I'm going to highlight all this and hit the keyboard shortcut for delete, which is delete. Now, notice there's no other hard returns below me. So even if I don't have any text here, if I add any paragraph level formatting as I carry this forward, which means hard return, that paragraph level formatting will carry forward. So I'm going to right click and go to paragraph. That's one way to do it. Paragraph dialog box. I'm going to escape. You can also use in the paragraph group in the home ribbon the dialog launcher. All right, let's look at paragraph level formatting. Notice I don't have any text there, but no way, they give us a preview. And this is a trick that you should remember. Anytime you have a dialog box, whether it's paragraph or borders or font or whatever, you can literally try all these things and watch how it changes here. It's a great way to teach yourself about Word. Now, alignment. Before we even talk about alignment and this stuff, notice this is margins. Section level formatting, we'll talk about margins. Margins are set in the page setup dialog box. That's a section level formatting. Margins is how far from the edge of the paper is the very first possible thing allowed. Now we get to the secondary possibility is alignment. That means from the edge of the margin, how do you want it aligned? Do you want it left, or do you want it aligned on the right, or do you want it centered? So alignment, and you can watch down here, center. And then right. You can see it's aligned over here. All right, we're going to select left. Now, indentation. Indentation, again, has to do with margins. Margins are the first possible character you can have, but you can indent from the margin. So, for example, you could say indent 5 inches, and you can see the entire paragraph. So indent moves the whole paragraph in. You could also do from the right. Right? And sometimes, so here from the right, in like that. So sometimes when you have extensive quotes, you indent a certain amount on both sides. All right, I'm going to go back to 0. Special indent is what we're interested in. This is awesome. Drop down and first line. That means this is a paragraph level formatting. Every single time you hit enter, only the first line will get a 5-inch indent, which is oftentimes what research papers required. There's also hanging. That will be all the rest of the text except for the first line. And we'll use that in our bibliography or our works cited as our type of indentation. Spacing. Now, let's just take a look here. This is actually new in Office 2007 and continued in 2010. They have the normal style. And boy, is it annoying to a lot of people. People always wonder why we used to have a single space and a single line and no spacing before or after the paragraph. But this is the normal style, this one right here. So if you don't like it, you can either right-click and modify normal style, or you can just change it for this particular file here. This is a paragraph level formatting, so as you hit enter, 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 this will carry forward. But now let's just take a look here. Before, this is a cool way to kind of add some space or do something unusual. If I add some space before, notice before this paragraph, there's a bunch of space. And it's done by points, and points are 1/76 of an inch. After, you can see this paragraph is pushing down. So again, you can literally go through all of this and just teach yourself how all this works. But spacing and lines. Lines is a paragraph level formatting. Oftentimes you want double for research papers. We're going to keep it as 1. Actually, let's not. Let's put double and add 36 after. Right, just so we can see how this works. We got first line, and OK. Now, as I type, notice that a paragraph mark is moving to the right as fast as I can type. And now watch this. When I hit enter, sure enough, we have the double space. And if what I say is true, that paragraph mark had the paragraph level formatting, but this one should too. So as I type, it just carried right on forward. And then I'm going to hit enter, and you can see we have lots of space after. We have our double space, and we have our first line indent. All right, so that's pretty cool. And in our next video project, we'll get to put this to great use. But that's only 2 types of formatting. Next, we want to talk about section. Now, section level formatting are things like margins. Right here, and orientation. Right now, if I control and roll my mouse, we have portrait. But you could easily go to orientation landscape. Now, section level formatting will be great because if you set a section, and we're going to do it, we'll see the non-printing character when we add one right here. It'll be a section. And then everything in section 1 can have different margins and different orientation and things like columns also. And you can change the margins and the orientation and other section level formatting when you get to section 2. Headers and footers are also a section level formatting. All right, let's just see a couple basic examples. I'm going to Control Z because I don't want that. And then I'm going to Control Roll. Now, I'm going to first insert a section break. Now, we need to go to Page Layout, and there's breaks. Now, we've already seen how to, in an earlier video, do a page break. And we'll see that again in particular when we do our research paper. Let's just see how that one works. Now, I'm not going to do breaks, page break right here. I'm going to escape, and I'm going to do the keyboard shortcut for this. Control Enter. And notice there's a page break. That's our non-printing character. Now, one big mistake when people take tests in this class, I always have people do section level formatting, and they try to do section level formatting with a page break. It's never going to work. That non-printing character has got to say section break. All right. So now we're going to come down here, and we're not going to do a page break. We're going to do a section break. Boop. And there it is, section break. Next page sends it to the next page. Continuous. This actually is kind of cool. You can do multiple section breaks in the middle of one page, which means continuous. And you can set different margins even on one page. I'm going to say actually escape. I'm going to Control Z, and watch what happens when I Control Z. Control Z. Now I'm going to set a section break because I want this page and this page to have a certain type of section level formatting, and then the following page to have a different section level formatting. So I'm going to go ahead and go Insert Section Break, Next Page. Now I'm going to scroll up, and you can see, oh, there it is. Sometimes I'm going to hit Enter here. Section Break, Next Page. Now the key is I'm going to change the margins here, and then I'm going to have different margins up here. Your cursor's got to be on the whatever section. And notice, yeah, so our cursor's on our second page right here. And now I'm going to go to Page Setup. I'm going to use the dialog box. And I know the keyboard shortcut for this. We've done it a couple times already. Alt-PSP. Now look at this, margins. I'm in the second section, so I'm going to type 0.5, tab, 0.5, tab, 0.5, tab, 0.5. Right, and now when I click OK, the margins here, when I type rand, when I do our little thing, we have 0.5 on the edge and the top. But look at this, the margins stayed exactly the same over here. Now, I'd like to do another section break. That was I was illustrating section level formatting with margins. Let's do orientation. I'm going to go Insert. Now, you don't need to know this keyboard shortcut. This is actually from an earlier version. But for example, I do lots of section break, next page. And because it's an activity I do day in and day out, I memorized the Alt keyboard shortcuts. Now, we've talked about this a few times already. You only memorize Alt keyboard shortcuts like Alt-PSP if you do this action all the time, right? And so you hit the Alt key, and then I see a P. Excuse me. So I hit P, and then a B, and then an N. Now, right now we can see that worked. I'm going to Control Z. And I want to illustrate something just in case someone in this class used earlier versions before 2007, which means 2003, 2000, etc. The Alt keyboard shortcuts were different back then, but they still work. So for example, I still remember the keyboard shortcut for section break next page from Word 2003, and it's Alt N for insert, B for break, and N for next page. All right, so there we have our section break. Section break, if you don't like it sitting up against this paragraph right here, you could hit Enter, and so you see it right there. All right, now I want to insert a picture. I'm going to do clip art. Clip art. And just to illustrate how we can do orientation, I'm going to, whatever picture you want. I happen to have cornucopia from our last video. I'm going to click Go. And then I'm going to insert this. I'm going to close this. And I'm controlling and rolling. And I really want this kind of really wide. Now, I have a section break right here. But I also want to, actually, before I do that, I want to click to the right of the picture, hit Enter, and now I want to add another section break. Alt-N, B-N. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Alt-N for insert, B for break, and N for next page. So now look what I've done. I have a section break here, and I can even hit Enter again so I see it there. And one right there. I'd like to keep all of the pages here and above as portrait. I'd like to keep this one, change this one to landscape so I can make the picture really big. And then everything afterward is still going to be portrait. So in essence, I'm going to have one page in the middle that is orientated landscape. So now, the key here is you got to have your cursor in whatever section it is that you want the orientation. And I'm going to go to page layout. I could go right here, but this one, orientation, I'm just going to say landscape. And sure enough, if I Control and roll, I could see, so section level formatting. Now let's go to the last page. I'm going to Control and roll. Headers and footers are also a section level formatting. I'm not going to do that in this video, but We'll learn how to do headers and footers next video in our research paper. But if you ever have a situation where you want a certain type of header on page 1, page 2, and then a different header after, or even headers and footers on different on even and odd pages, then you'd not the even and odd. That's something different. You have to check a different box. But if you want different in headers and footers, then you have to set sections. All right. Now, what I want here is I'd like to have some columns. Now, in page layout, there's columns, and columns are used in newsletters or newspapers or something like that. I'm going to do that trick again with the rand text. So all I did was I typed equals rand, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, and enter. And now I'm going to control roll down. And I would like this right here to remain as I would like this column, and I'd like to set a section break right here and then have some text afterwards that's not column. So I'm going to hit enter and do this rand trick again. Equals rand. Oops. All right. So the goal here is to set a continuous section break right here and tell this section of the paper to have columns. So columns is going to be our third example of section level formatting. So I'm going to set a section break, Alt Insert B, and then this one is T. Remember, page layout breaks. You do not need to know the keyboard shortcut for that. All right. And I'm going to hit enter right here. So I have a section break right here and one up there. Now watch this. I'm going to put my cursor right here, and I'm going to go up to columns. And I'm going to say, hey, give me 3 columns. And just like that, some of the paper or the newsletter or whatever has 1 column. This part has 3 columns. And sure enough, even on the same page using a continuous section break, I can see my text down here. All right, that's just a little bit. And sometimes another hint about section breaks and page breaks, sometimes they kind of get squished up and they're hard to see. It's a non-printing character that actually sometimes it can be kind of hidden. All right, so what did we do in this video? We talked about character, paragraph, section level. Character level formatting is stored right here in the characters. Paragraph level formatting is always stored in that little paragraph mark. We looked at a bunch of different kinds of paragraph level formatting. And then finally, we talked about section level formatting. And what do we do? 1, 2, 3 things. We saw margins, orientation, and columns. All right, next video, we'll do our research paper and a bunch of tricks we learned from this video here. We'll put together in a research paper. All right, see you next video.